Good evening, everyone. I'm Emily Lefevers from the Miami University Alumni Association. Tonight, we are kicking off the Atlanta chapter's Digital Makeover series with Rock Your Profile. Joining us for tonight's conversation is LinkedIn employee Madison O'Leary. Madison is a senior solutions consultant. In this role, she supports the talent solutions division, where she gets to strategize with customers to harness the full power of LinkedIn to recruit, hire, and retain great talent. Welcome, Madison. Thank you for taking the time to join us today.
Of course.
Questions collected during registration, and our panelists will address some of those throughout the webinar this evening. You'll have the option to ask questions during the webinar by clicking the Ask a Question webinar at the bottom of your screen. Please note that in the interest of time, we may not get to every question, but we will try our best. So today's webinar will last about an hour, including time for questions and answers. And with that, I will turn it over to you, Madison.
Great. Thank you, Emily, for that lovely introduction. Hello, everyone. How are we this evening? Thank you guys so much for taking the time to come out. I know we have about an hour, so I think what we're going to do is I have obviously a presentation, as you can see. We'll kind of click through that. That'll give you a little bit of an idea of best practices in terms of using LinkedIn, from everything from how to best build out your profile to how to best use it to network or for the job search. I know everyone's kind of in a different place right now, so we'll hopefully touch on everything. I did receive some pre-questions, so I will try and get to those as we go through. But like Emily said, there's about 5 sections within the PowerPoint, so I will pause at the end of sections to open for any short, quick questions that might be relevant to that. And then at the end, we will obviously hold like 10 or so minutes for Q&A, just to open it up for any further questions that might not be covered as we go through. So with that, I will go ahead and kick it off, and we'll get started here. So quick introduction to me. I am a senior talent solutions specialist here. So as Emily said, I handle everything from the full talent cycle, everything from hiring and recruitment to also then helping companies kind of retain and upskill that talent as they bring them in. So I work with LinkedIn all day long, work with a lot of C-suite people, a lot of HR folks. So I get to kind of see the joys of it working front to end as the day goes on. So what we are going to cover in this workshop. So first and foremost, we're going to kind of give an idea of, introductions. What is LinkedIn? How are we going to really build out our LinkedIn profile? And then how do we build out that professional network? From there, we're going to go into the second half, which looks like how do we use that LinkedIn network to really connect to opportunity, or to bolster, anything that we're looking to get across. From there, we're going to talk about searching and applying for jobs on LinkedIn, and then we'll kind of talk some extra credit in terms of how do we really want to amplify our presence. So first and foremost, let's talk, what do you do on LinkedIn versus what are we doing on other social media? So some of you may have some of these other forms of social media, but we're just going to talk travel here. So in terms of travel, Facebook, it's out there. We're using it to say, I like to travel. Snapchat, we're using watch me travel, right? Instagram, here's some cool photos of my travels. Pinterest, these are some places I'd want to travel. And Spotify, I'm listening to travel. Where we want to use LinkedIn, as you can see, is more of a professional mindset, right? So we want to say, one day I hope to operate a travel agency, or I'm looking for this type of job. I want to connect with people within this industry. These are some top skills that people within the industry need, so that I know moving forward what I would need to do to get into that. So when we put our kind of LinkedIn hats on, we want to put more of a professional mindset, and that's really how we want to use the network. So how do we really build out our professional network and connect to jobs? So first and foremost, it's worth noting that 95% of the professional workforce is on LinkedIn. So if there is someone that we're looking to connect with, as you can see, we've got over 750 million professionals in over 200 countries. So the benefit is, you're going to be able to connect with pretty much anyone in any industry, in pretty much any location. So as we said, Over 9 out of 10 employers use LinkedIn during the hiring process at some point in time. So be that posting jobs, be that trying to, advertise what their company looks like, be that just doing some background check on who you are as you go to apply. It's super important to be able to have a LinkedIn that really showcases who you are, both as a professional and also then as an individual. So some key terms that I'm going to use today, just so that you guys are aware when I use them, what I'm kind of referring to. So the workforce is the people who are currently working or available for work in a region. At LinkedIn, we talk about the idea of really building out your network and using the workforce to do so and connecting every member of the global workforce to opportunity. So then let's talk connections. So connections are the people that you are in contact with on LinkedIn. So your first degree connections, which we'll get to, are the people that you have hit that connection button and they've accepted. That's your first degree. Your second degree connections are the connections of that connection. And then your third degree are the connections of that connection. So I like to think of your third degree as like a friends of friends of friends. Those are really how we bolster the network, is those 3 levels of connections. So now we get to our network. So our network is the group of people that we are connected to within our community on LinkedIn. So the more we can connect with people who are of interest to us, who are in locations that interest us, professions that interest us, that's how we really open ourselves up to opportunities, both from a job perspective and also just from looking to bolster the people that we surround ourselves with. And then finally, a referral. So many of us have this already kind of in the bag, but when a job seeker is recommending someone, that would be a referral. So moving forward, let's talk about building out your LinkedIn profile. And we'll go through this fairly quickly. If there's any further questions, I'll be stopping at the end of this section for you guys to ask any questions regarding how to best build out your LinkedIn profile. So first and foremost, we want to obviously set up an account. Then we want to go to our profile and how we're going to really build that out. We'll talk about, how do we present ourselves in the best manner with a great photo, and then what's really important to have on there. So first, let's talk about going to an account. If you don't already have it, the Instagram app is awesome. It's super great. It's easy, something on your commute. I know many of us are not commuting now, but it's something that on my commute, I would just scroll through quickly, kind of get the digestive news, the information, the connections that I needed, and then I kind of go on my way. So let's talk what we really want to put on our profile. The biggest difference between a LinkedIn profile and your resume is that we want your profile to be a working source of who you are. So it should be something that is being updated almost monthly, if not weekly. So it goes into more detail in terms of like, what are really the skills that we have. It allows you to kind of showcase who you are, both as a professional, but more in-depthly, the things that you've done within your professional experience in a way that a one-pager resume just doesn't really allow for. So super important, as you can see, posting a great photo actually amplifies the amount of views and connection requests that you get significantly. So some things that are really important when we're going to post a good photo, it kind of goes without saying, use a background that, one, isn't distracting, dress for the job that you want. So this is something that's super important. This isn't Facebook, right? We're not just posting some photos with our friends to, connect with others. This is a situation where we want to ensure that we're looking like the professional version of ourselves that we want to amplify to our networks. And then the other piece of the puzzle is make sure that, you're smiling. Make sure you have a friendly expression on. This is something that people are going to use, within your day-to-day. Obviously, working at LinkedIn, our headshot gets used a ton. But it definitely is something that obviously then you want to make sure that, it's predominantly just you in the photo. We don't want any other friends or anyone else along there. So editing our profile. So super important, super easy to do. If you go up to the top of your screen and you click the me icon, this is where it's going to drop down and you're going to be able to edit a lot of things as you go through. So some things that we want to make sure we have on there. Location and industry is huge. So location is really important because when recruiters are looking to help people and they're looking to find people for jobs, what they do first and foremost is they use a LinkedIn tool that actually allows you to filter down based on a bunch of different things. So it allows you to filter based on location. It allows them to filter based on keywords. It allows them to filter based on schools or industries, or skill sets that you have. So we want to make sure that you're really able to amplify all of that on your profile. So as you're going through, making sure that, if there's any key terms, like I played lacrosse in college, and so I have, All-American on my profile. That's something that some employers are looking for. They're looking for people who have had prior collegiate experience in that manner. So they'll actually put in as a keyword All-American. So anything that you would want and kind of put your recruiter hat on, anything that when you go to look at those jobs, any of those keywords, we want to make sure that they're then able to be found on your profile. Another really important thing is your headline. So your headline is really the very first thing that anyone is going to see. And when people are scrolling down really quickly, it's how they're going to find you, and they're going to have some semblance of an idea of what you do. So yeah, we want it to, be whatever your job title is, but it's also an opportunity for you to really show some type of personality, or some semblance of an idea of, what your role really entails. As you can see, these ones are pretty common. Design thinking, social impact meets business strategy. So in that one, she's kind of saying, these are the things I do. This is the mindset I have within my job. It doesn't say, I'm a business development individual. Similar with that one that's empowering the global workforce at LinkedIn. So that person actually does the exact same job I do, but it's really their opportunity to say, this is what I do within my job, not necessarily just this is my direct title. Another really important part is having that summary in there. So this is a great opportunity for, when someone does want to connect with you, they're able to use this to kind of say, oh, this is something I have in common with this person. And they're able to go in and use that in their outreach. So make sure this says something about, what you do, what you've done, and then some of your future goals, or the type of jobs that you want to be connected with, or the type of individuals and members that you want to engage with. So we're going to pause here, and we'll talk about going into our professional network. But Emily, are there any questions that you're seeing on your end?
Yeah, we do have a few so far. So somebody said, how do you recommend structuring a profile for someone who is making a career path change and is still figuring out what direction to go?
Yeah, it's a great question. So there's actually an opportunity for you to put within your profile the type of roles or industries that you're interested in. So that's where I would say it's a great spot where you'd want to add that in there. Another thing is within your header, you can say like current marketing professional interested in opportunities in, the finance industry or something along those lines, so that recruiters know that, this is something that you're looking to do.
Awesome. Couple more. So somebody said, I'm struggling on what to do with the profile background photo. It seems odd to promote something about your current company if you're job hunting and other photos may be too social. So she said she's not seeing a strong purpose for it on this particular platform. What do you recommend using?
Yeah, that's a great question. So if you guys take a look at mine, it's actually a group of skydivers. So when we first started at LinkedIn, they basically told us to use that as an opportunity to either show something that you're super passionate about, or show a type of part of your personality, or something that would be an easy talking point. So again, these are situations for me, skydiving. I'm a super adventurous individual, and I love the thrill of trying new things. So that's why I kind of put that on there. Some people who are, if they're living in a certain location, let's say, Chicago, people love Chicago. A lot of my friends that are in Chicago have like the skyline of Chicago as their background. So I think use this as an opportunity to think about something that you'd want to highlight, that you might not be able to show elsewhere within your profile.
Oh, awesome. I would have never thought of that. Those are really good ideas. So one last one for this section.
Yeah.
Where should I include speaking engagements within LinkedIn? Does it matter how many, and this is a 2-for-1, does it matter how many people endorse me for a particular skill?
Yeah.
And then you can go on after this question.
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll get to the skill set section a little bit farther down, but endorsements actually do matter. It'll push you within a search engine area based on the amount of skills that you have. So that is something that is super important. We want to make sure that, if you are putting skills out there, they are getting endorsements. And we'll talk about later, you can actually ask for recommendations or endorsements. So that's a really great way to, I scratch your back, you scratch mine to some of your fellow colleagues. As for the first part of the question, there's actually an area where you can add media. So if this is a situation where, there's a video or there's a pamphlet from something that you've done, within that section, you want to try and add in that media option, because then as people scroll through your profile, they can kind of see that and that you've done whatever XYZ speaking engagement was. Perfect. So now we will kick it to the second section, which is really building out your professional network. So who do we want to connect with? How do we want to do it? And how do we be mindful of, making those connections and using them properly? So something that's super important to know is actually 50% of hires result from a personal connection. Now, when we talk personal connection, we talk about, the power of networking. Obviously, everyone has a network, and that network might be larger than you actually envision. So your first degree connections, like we spoke, are those people who, you're directly in contact with, you've connected with. Then we want to talk about, the second degree connection. So on LinkedIn, your second degree connections are people that you share a connection with. And then as we go one step farther, we talk about our third degree connections. So our third degree connections are the people who share the connection of the connection of the connection. So typically where we find, and we'll get to this in a minute, but typically where we find actually people get their next roles is with the connections of the connections of the connections. So for example, my neighbor's sister actually works at Amazon, and I only met her once, but if I wanted to work at Amazon, she would be the person who would help me find a job there and connect with people within my field. So I would think about being mindful every time you connect with someone. Think about that as, yes, you're connecting with them, but you're also connecting with their extended network as well, which then further becomes accessible to you, because you can actually in-mail people without paying for it on that third degree, to that third degree. So again, as we then connect with these people, if it isn't our first degree connection and we're looking to reach out, we really want to be mindful of how we do that. So when you go to connect with someone, there's actually always an opportunity to add a personalization. I would highly recommend, no matter what you're doing, always adding some type of personalization. If it's someone that that you've had direct contact with, that's a really easy one. If it's someone that you're interested within their industry or their job, it's a great place to put it on there and say, hey, I'm exploring career paths within XYZ industry. Saw that you're working there, would love to connect and follow along as you go or learn more about, whatever you do. Always put some type of personalized connection because it just makes it a little bit less awkward for the person receiving it, and you're far more inclined to want to respond to those. Okay, so now how do we do this? How do we discover these people? How do we find colleagues? How do we, connect with the type of people that we're looking to do? So first and foremost, I would say connect with anyone that you work with on a direct day-to-day level. Connect with relatives, connect with colleagues, connect with old people that you went to school with. All of those people are great people to do that with. So what you need to do is up at the top, there is a home section, and then right next to the home section is a My Network section. Within that, it's going to show you people that work at your company. If you scroll down a little farther, it's going to show you people who have similar roles to you. If you scroll a little bit farther, it's going to try and recommend people based on, other people you might be connected with or other skill sets you might have. This is a great way to go in and just quickly find some people to try and begin to build out that network. Again, making sure that we're adding those personalizations in some way, shape, or form. So another way is, if we're looking for specific connections based on, let's say maybe we know someone's name, but I'm like, I can't find them in there. If you actually go to the search bar at the top of LinkedIn and just hit the space button as you go and hit search, what it'll do is it'll open up this thing at the very top where you see people, connections, locations, current employees, and an all filters button. If you click on that all filters button, That's where you're going to be able to find all the different ways to filter down and connect with people. So you can connect with them based on, a company, current or past, based on a certain location, based on a certain school. So this is a great way to find some alumni. If I want to work in the finance industry, a great way to start is to go and see, okay, who from Miami is working in that industry, and I'm in the Chicago area, who is in the Chicago area. So I'm going to go through, input all those things in the filters, and then it takes all of the LinkedIn network and kind of kicks it up to you, and you're able to then use that to begin to build that out. So again, making sure that we're just adding individualized notes at the end, because it'll make it so you're far more likely to, have that person accepting you. So who should we reach out to on LinkedIn? This kind of comes down to, and people ask me this all the time. I'm like, if you get a random connection, like, should I connect with them? Like, what if there's someone who, is a CEO at a company? Like, should I just connect with them? I think from my perspective, I try and treat LinkedIn as if someone were to ask me for a recommendation or to connect with that person, would I feel comfortable doing so? And that's how I make the judgment call on who I connect with and who I don't connect with. If it's someone that I don't know, that I wouldn't feel comfortable, if someone were to come to me and say, hey, will you introduce me to Bob? And I don't know Bob, I'm going to be like, you know what, I'm not going to connect with Bob. That's how I would go about kind of making those stipulations and decisions there. Okay, so with that, I'm going to pause. Are there any other questions?
Yeah, we have had one come in. So somebody said, every week I get a notification that I appeared in 24 searches this week. Who is doing these searches and why? Is it more than just recruiters?
Yeah, so that is it is definitely recruiters. You're showing up in those searches, again, based on those keywords that we talked about. So you might be in the right location with the right industry. You might have the right job title. You might be at a university that they were searching. All of those things are reasons that you'll be pulled up within there. That's a great opportunity to kind of take a look and see, if you are open to work, is this the type of jobs that you'd want to be, being poached by? Are these the type of companies that you'd be interested in? And if not, I would just be mindful. It's not anyone who's like creeping on your profile or anything like that. It's always done from a professional manner. And the only other way that someone would find you is if it's a direct search. So if I'm looking for you directly on LinkedIn and you show up in the profile search, it'll trigger to you. Something we'll talk about a little bit farther down is you can actually set privacy standards, where you can show up in certain ways, or you can make sure that you don't show up, that people don't have access to things. So that's all something that we'll get to down the line, but definitely something worth noting. Anything else?
We can touch on the other questions at the end.
Okay, great. So we'll continue here. So the next part I want to talk about is really using the LinkedIn network to connect to opportunities. So we kind of touched base on some of this, but this is more so when you're trying to really build out that network for either a new job, or you're looking to get into a new industry, or just look to connect with other professionals within your network. So LinkedIn members are actually 4 times more likely to get hired when they're referred. This kind of is a generalized across the board. Referrals tend to be 90% of most small businesses, and about 40 to 50% of larger businesses. Actually, those hires come from referrals. So that's something that's super important. If it is something that you're interested in and you do apply to a job, I would very, very, very highly recommend trying to get a referral. And that might just come from, reaching out to someone on LinkedIn and being like, hey, I'm super interested in your company. I've applied. I'd really like to get a better idea of, what you do day to day, or what the culture is like. And at most companies, there's actually referral bonuses or some benefit to providing a referral to someone who then gets hired. So most people are pretty open, so long as, you're genuine about it, to having those conversations and potentially, offering that referral come down the line. So again, something that's super important, sending those messages kind of providing that background. We don't need to get into this video, but essentially it just kind of shows it was a chickie who moved to New York and didn't know anyone there and actually reached out to a random person on LinkedIn and was able to kind of land a job based on that. So something super important is how we're doing this outreach within InMails. So if this is something, that you are interested in kind of connecting with someone, making sure that we're being mindful of the language that we use. So some good ones to use are, gain advice on your career path, learn about the industry you're in currently, learn about the specific company that you work with, or help me really establish a professional brand. I see that you've done a great job on this network. So all of those type of wordings are things that, people are going to feel very comfortable if they're reached out to along that manner. And then again, we go into referrals, being super specific in terms of why you're interested in the role and that you really appreciate, their connection. Like we said, over 60% of the workforce has actually referred someone to some company at some point. So most people are pretty up to date with this, and they're pretty okay with it so long as, it's done in the proper way. Okay, so this comes to that recommendation piece that we're talking about with the skill set. So recommendations on LinkedIn are basically written references from people in your network. So I talk to recruiters all the time who will get an application from someone, and the very first thing they do is they go down and they look and see if there's any recommendations that person's received to try and get an idea of culturally what that person's like prior to even going through the interview process. So this is a great opportunity. All you have to do is go to whoever the person's profile is that you want to receive that recommendation from. It can be a current even level colleague. It can be someone who managed you. It can be someone that you managed. It can be someone that you worked alongside in a project. Anyone who can really speak to your work or, the type of person that you are is a great person to reach out to for that. And then also be mindful, if people are writing you recommendations, it might be nice if there is the opportunity to give that reciprocal. So we really want to make sure that when we're using the LinkedIn network, we're really adding value because that will also then push your profile out to more people. Every time you like something, it actually shows up in all of your connections news feeds. So we want to go through and make sure, if you're connecting with people, make sure that you're following along. If you're, following someone, don't be one of those ghost followers who just kind of like reads their stuff and moves on to the next. Like it, comment on it, share it. Make sure you're interacting. Join groups that interest you, right? Follow companies that interest you so you can stay up to date with their information. Allow the LinkedIn network to really be your kind of one-stop shop for anything that, is of interest to you within the industry, within your friend groups, within the professional network. Okay, I will pause there. Emily, do we have any further questions?
Yes. Somebody said, if a recruiter reaches out to you and you are not interested, is it better to decline the offer or to just not respond?
Yeah, that's a good question. So we will kind of talk about this in this job searching section, but if a recruiter reaches out to you and there is an opportunity or a button at the bottom that says, not interested, interested, would like to talk, whatever those are, when recruiters reach out to you, they're actually using InMails to do so. And we only allow so many InMails for recruiters because we don't want them just like blasting everyone. So if you click one of those buttons, be it interested, not interested, like talk later, whatever those are, that actually gives the credit back to the recruiter so that they're then able to use that to reach out to another individual. So if it is a job where you're not that interested, just go ahead and click that not interested button. Recruiters would really appreciate that moving forward.
Oh, that's good to know. One other one, and this is the last one for this section, can you list more than one industry?
Yes, so you can when you put underneath your profile, your header, it's only one industry, but you can put industries that you're open to work in or that you're like interested in. And that's where I would suggest putting if your industry does kind of cross multiple, that's where I would put that so that you'll still show up within all of those searches for all of those industries. Okay, so now let's talk about searching and applying for jobs on LinkedIn. So one thing to note, when you go onto your profile, if you click on the Me button and click View Profile, there's some new sections from the COVID era, we will call that, and it puts whether you can click whether you're open to work, whether you're hiring, or whether a colleague is hiring. And those are great opportunities if you are an employer who's, hiring. It's a great way to just put that on there. Then anytime someone comes across your profile, or let's say you do reach out to them, or someone within your industry or someone within your general region reaches out, it will show that you are hiring. And that's a really quick, easy way for people to kind of see that first and foremost, and apply to jobs, or potentially reach out to you, if they are interested in your segment or your job. Obviously searching for jobs. Again, if you go up to that top section, there's a little job button, and we'll get to this in a little bit. But another great opportunity is those emails that you receive of those jobs you may be interested in. That's a really good opportunity twofold. One, to see some jobs that are, within your industry, within your field, but also to see the type of jobs that are going to be pushed to you based on what your profile looks like. So that's a great space where if you're like, hey, I don't understand why I keep being pushed, customer success jobs. Maybe take a look at your profile and see if there's, a lot of customer success type language on your profile, and maybe edit as you go there. And of course, following companies and applying actively to anything that you're interested in. So there are 34 million plus job seekers that visit LinkedIn Jobs every week. So that is just the people who are actively looking for jobs. That is not even taking into account the people who have privately on the back of their LinkedIn network said that they're open to new opportunities, which I would highly, highly, highly recommend everyone turn on. Unless, you're absolutely dead set, you're like, I'm never moving. That open to new opportunities button is a great opportunity to kind of silently raise your hand. People at your own company, recruiters at your company cannot see it. The only people who can see it are recruiters from other companies. So that's something just worth noting there. So again, clicking that button, like I said, that open to work, as it'll show in this kind of infographic there. You can either share it with all the LinkedIn members, share it with recruiters, whoever you'd want to share it to. Great opportunity to kind of get your name out there. So now let's talk searching for jobs. So again, you're going to go up to that little job button at the top, and you can use those filters to search based on keywords, titles, location, all of those type of things. And this is a really great opportunity to see, potentially what jobs are out there, but also to see, what could be the next job that you'd be looking for. So, if you're in an entry level position, what are some other positions within, that function that would be down the line? I would use that experience level button to, click through and see what else at a higher experience level is available, because it'll give you an idea of what a potential career path would look like. Great thing to do prior to having any type of networking conversations. So you have some semblance of an idea of, what that career path would look like. So you're able to talk in an educated manner on it. Another really, really important thing is if you are looking for jobs or you are open to, potential new opportunities, using that search alerts button. So as you can see, you're just going to go in, as you go to the jobs, you can hit that alerts. And what it'll do is it'll basically create an alert for whatever the filters are that you've put out, so that if any new job were to come about, you can then get an email from it or an alert from it, obviously based on whatever specifications you put out on the notification. And then, like we said, review these jobs you may be interested in. It's a great idea to make sure that, your entire work experience is filled out. You filled out those skill sections, your location information is correct. All of that is how you're really going to be pushed to the right type of people there. And then finally, making sure that, we're following companies that you're interested in, right? So be that, from a working standpoint or from just a professional interest standpoint, this is a great way for you to stay up to date. And as you're scrolling through your profile, just get some of that, current news that you would be interested in. And then super easy on most jobs on LinkedIn, there's literally a quick little button that says easy apply. And it's way simpler than having to send in a resume, doing all that stuff. What it'll do is if you click that, it'll basically send all of your information to the recruiter, and it'll create a resume in along there for you so that you don't actually have to attach any further. Most people who apply to jobs within the first 3 days of the posting are, I think it says here 13. I think that's actually increased since the COVID era. To about 15% more likely to actually have a shot at getting the job because recruiters begin to get bombarded with applicants. So if it is something that you're super interested in, again, apply as quickly as possible. And I would directly reach out to, if there is a person here, it says like posted by, I would directly reach out to that person so that they kind of know and that your name is then top of mind. Okay, I will pause there on the job posting questions.
Yeah. Okay. So this one, she has a job, but she still has a question. She said, "I'm happily employed, but always open to new opportunities for advancement. How can I use LinkedIn to propel my career?"
Yeah, so twofold. Again, leaving that open to new opportunities button on is a great way to do that first and foremost, because it'll provide that opportunity for people to reach out to you. You'll be able to get some semblance of an idea of potential roles that recruiters think that you would be eligible for. And then furthermore, using kind of that job search button, like I said, going in the experience level and seeing what else is out there, what other type of jobs are out there, who would be, potentially in that role at another company, and what have they done prior to? Do you measure up? Are there other skill sets that you need to add to really be a force to be reckoned with come that time does come when maybe potentially another role down the road?
Awesome. And that's the last one for this section.
Okay, perfect. So this is the last section. This will probably wrap up in 10 or so minutes. So we'll still have 10, 15 minutes open for Q&A. Another great opportunity if there are any further questions to touch base on. So some really quick things I want to make sure that we connect on. So there is actually a skills section within LinkedIn Learning. So it's a great opportunity to see what type of skills are out there that, other employers are looking for, that other roles might have that you'd be interested in. And then you're able to go on and kind of take some of those courses for free. So really great opportunity to begin to kind of up level your skills on a super low impact way. And furthermore, some of these skills right now have actually been unlocked for free. So you do get a free trial to LinkedIn Learning if it is something that you're interested in. And then there's also, paths that you can see at the top that are for free. So you can go through those as well. And then another great thing, and I'm actually using this right now internally, is our interview prep. So what it will do is it'll see what type of jobs you're interviewing for, and it'll help provide some tips and tricks, as well as some potential behavioral questions that we've collected across a numerous survey to kind of prep for those interviews moving down the road. So when it comes to you guys being this alumni group, this is a huge one for you all. So making sure that we're really able to use the force of our network from our schools, right? If you are interested in, maybe potentially exploring another role, or you want to make sure that, you're really pushing your content to people who would care because, they are other alumni. This is a great way to see, what the school's got going on. And then if you actually see down at the bottom there's a little on that side, there's an alumni button. That's a great spot to click and find other people, or even right at the top, you can see, that says there are 4 people from your school were hired here. You can see the other employees. Those are great ways to kind of connect with people within your network who went to Miami. So what you're going to do is you're going to click that little alumni button on the Miami site, and then you'll be able to see, where are some other alumni living, where are they working, what are they doing, what did they study, right? That's another really interesting one. So if you are, you're looking at a job in finance, but you're like, shoot, I was, a communications major. How am I going to make that pivot? This is a great opportunity to kind of put in all those filters and see, are there any other, communications majors who moved into finance? And then to reach out to those people and see, how did they make that move? What were the conversations that they had? What skills did they need to, acquire in order to make that move successfully? And then another thing that I would highly recommend for you guys especially is joining groups, right? Groups are great ways to stay connected with people in your industry, stay up to date with current industry information or standards or knowledge. Obviously, connecting with your alumni on LinkedIn, hugely important. All good ways of making sure that, again, when we're really trying to build out this professional brand, how are we doing it and what type of important information are we getting from LinkedIn? And then, so one last thing is this privacy setting. So this is where I was saying it would be really good to go in and kind of click through and see, how are you showing up to recruiters? How are, your searches showing up? As you can see, there's a bunch of different options: site preferences, subscriptions, account management. You can put in, if you have a name that's kind of more difficult to pronounce, you can put in actually a pronunciation. So really great opportunity here. I would highly recommend clicking on that me, going down and going into your account and kind of just clicking through some of those things and making sure that everything is kind of in order in the way that you would want it to be. So with that, I believe we have about 15 minutes or so. So I will close here. Thank you guys so much for the time. Great opportunity now. If there are any questions, please ask those. If you got to hop off, totally understand. Connect with me on LinkedIn. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out, message me. I'm always happy to kind of help out. My best girlfriend here in Chicago is actually a Miami alum, and she wanted to come, but she has to go pick her sister up from the airport. But she is also a great resource. She just moved into our sales solutions business. So if there are any of you who are sales folks who have any questions about how to kind of use the LinkedIn network to navigate that, definitely connect with me, and I'm happy to connect you over her way. Emily, kick it back to you.
Yeah, thanks, Madison. Thanks for talking about the alumni groups part. That is awesome, and definitely something that we can all utilize. A lot of our chapters do have LinkedIn pages, including the Atlanta chapter, who put this webinar together tonight. So be sure to check out the Atlanta chapter on LinkedIn. I'll look up that link and I'll put it up on the bottom of the screen for you guys to follow. But yes, we do have a few more questions. So somebody asked, how do you explain a career change on LinkedIn? I know we talked a little bit about that earlier, but if you don't mind going over it again.
Absolutely. Good question. So I think a great opportunity and a great area to show that is within your summary section. So saying, I began my career in, let's say, healthcare, was super passionate about helping people, found that, I really wanted to make more of an impact on a day-to-day individual level. So I actually went back to law school and am now pursuing a JD or something along those lines. So great opportunity there. The other thing I would say is within your actual work experience, making sure that you use bullet points, starting with an active verb to explain what you did in that current role, because that's a great way to show, even if, let's say the next role you're going into is something completely different. If you can show that in that current role you had those skill sets, it'll make that conversation much easier with those recruiters moving forward.
Awesome. Okay. So is LinkedIn Premium worth the extra expense?
It's a good question. I would say, it depends on what you're looking to do on LinkedIn. What LinkedIn Premium does is it will allow you to reach out to people on an expanded network beyond just your third-degree connections. It also allows, sometimes dependent on the one that you buy, for more in-mails, so you're allowed to message more people. It sometimes gives you access to the LinkedIn Learning that we chatted through a little bit. So I would take a look, see what the features are. Again, if there's any specific questions, definitely reach out. Happy to chat through anything specifically, but there are like 4 or 5 different premiums, I believe. I don't actually sell premium, So I'm completely unrelated to that. So happy to chat through that. But I would look at what the features are and see if it's something that to you makes sense financially with what you're looking to do.
All right, we've got about 3 more questions. So any tips for company pages, especially a startup?
Yeah, absolutely. So company pages are what I deal with all day long. So big things for company pages is one, making sure that you have all of your information filled out, making sure that you have all of your employees attached to your company page so that they put in their work experience your actual company and attach it in there. Making sure that you're using the LinkedIn network to kind of get your guys' name out there, especially if you're at the startup level. I would highly recommend, post some content, show what it's like, even if you don't have anything new going on, within your company, maybe just a photo of like you working or, what the current network place looks like, whatever, making sure that you're sharing content around the industry, making sure you're sharing content around your company culture, and then making sure that the people who you work with are also then sharing out that content. Because again, you post it, it's going to be seen to your third degree connections. If they post it, it's their third degree connections. So that's how we really amplify that message and amplify your company out to the network.
Perfect. And kind of along that line, can an individual page be converted to a business profile with existing connections and followers migrated from the original profile to the new one?
That's a good question. So it cannot. So our individual pages, we want to remain on, current individuals level. What you can do is if you have a question about transferring followers, if you Google LinkedIn help desk, what it'll do is it'll provide you with an email. I believe the phone number has been disabled since COVID began, but it'll provide you with an email and it's a ticketing system. So if you just put in there, what you're looking to do, hey, I've got this profile, I'm looking to kind of transfer the followers over, they'll be able to work with you and see, what are some different alternative options to make sure that we're making that migration as simple as possible. But the short answer question to that is no, we want our businesses to live as businesses and our individuals to live as individuals.
All right. And last one of the evening. Someone said, would you recommend leveraging the summary portion to explain gaps in employment?
Yeah, I think that's a great opportunity and a great section to do so. I also think, if you are, let's say, a mom who is raising kids and now you're like, all right, I need to get back into the workforce. Summary section is great. That header section is great too, right? Saying like retired, I don't know, let's say retired finance, looking to get into whatever with a brief break to, raise 4 awesome kids or whatever that is. That's a great opportunity to kind of, show your personality, be mindful, like recruiters are humans too, right? So what would you want to see if you were on the recruiting end of things? Well, you want to see, what is that person's, what was their life? What was the reason for this? And then making sure you present that obviously in a way that, still shows that you're locked in, you're ready to rock and roll and get back into things.
You should definitely acknowledge the gap in employment versus just like putting it up there and not saying anything kind of.
Yeah, I would say that be mindful of how long it was. Everyone knows that COVID happened, right? You don't have to say like, I got let off from my job because of COVID, right? That goes without saying. I think, if it's a 5, 6, 7 year gap, that's a different conversation. And I would also say, if you are bopping around a lot, that's something that recruiters are super mindful of. So if you're only at a place for a year and then you're at another place for a year and then another place for a year, making sure that, you're putting what you did at all those locations and showing that, there was rationale behind those moves. And it wasn't just because, you weren't good at your job or you got fired or, you were really unhappy and you're a hard employee to please, like whatever that might be.
Yeah. Well, that ends it for tonight. That was our last question. Thank you so much, Madison. This has been so informative. It's been really great. So we really appreciate your time tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, guys, if there's any questions that come up, do my name, search me on LinkedIn. Super easy to find now that you guys are all pros about doing that. And I'll be around.
Yeah, so thank you again for joining us, and a big thank you to you, Madison, for your time tonight. Also, thank you to the Atlanta Chapter Board for setting up this session. Make sure you join the Atlanta Chapter group on LinkedIn. You can just find it by searching Miami University Atlanta Alumni Chapter, and it will pop up. So be sure to tune in to the next Digital Makeover series on Thursday, May 20th, as we learn to improve our e-presence. I also invite you to check out other Alumni Association webinars. They are free and open to all and on our webinar site at alumlc.org/MiamiOH. With that, thank you again to everybody and have a great rest of your evening. Love and honor.
Enjoy, guys.